Phase 1. The glitch in the brain. You're surrounded by people. You're connected to 500 friends. You can message anyone instantly. You carry the entire internet in your pocket. Infinite knowledge, infinite entertainment, infinite connection. So why does your brain feel like it's slowly rotting? Why do ordinary conversations feel exhausting? Why does silence feel heavier than it should? Why do you finish scrolling for hours and somehow feel emptier than before? This isn't just boredom. It isn't laziness. It isn't just being tired. It feels stranger than that, like something inside you is quietly disconnecting. A kind of mental decay that doesn't happen all at once, but in small, invisible ways. Your attention gets weaker. Your thoughts feel foggier. Your emotions feel flatter. You're present, but not fully. Alive, but slightly distant. And the unsettling part? Most people think this is normal now. They call it burnout, stress, adult life. But what if it's something else? What if your brain is reacting exactly the way it should to an environment it was never designed to survive in? Because human beings were built for villages, for faces, for touch, for eye contact and shared silence. Not for glowing screens, not for artificial intimacy, not for spending your life emotionally surrounded and psychologically alone. This is not just loneliness. This is digital isolation. And if you've been feeling that strange, hollow disconnection, your brain may not be failing. It may be starving. Phase 2. The social malnutrition theory. Most people think loneliness means being alone, but that's not how the brain measures connection. You can spend an entire day surrounded by messages, notifications, group chats, and endless scrolling and still feel completely empty. Because contact is not the same as connection. Your brain knows the difference. Human beings evolved for something far more specific. Eye contact, tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, physical presence. Even silence means something when another person is physically there. Your nervous system was built to read these signals. It depends on them. But digital communication strips most of that away. Text has no tone. A like has no warmth. A video call still leaves your body alone in the room. It looks like connection, but neurologically, it's closer to imitation. Like feeding the brain emotional junk food, something quick and stimulating, something that feels like enough but never actually nourishes you. This is social malnutrition. You consume interaction constantly, but your brain remains hungry. And hunger changes behavior. It creates restlessness, emotional flatness, that strange feeling that something is missing even when everything looks fine. You start blaming yourself. Maybe I'm lazy. Maybe I'm ungrateful. Maybe I'm just depressed. But sometimes the problem is simpler. You aren't broken. Your brain is underfed. You aren't depressed because of a chemical imbalance. You're depressed because your brain is trying to survive in a medium it wasn't built for. A place full of stimulation, but empty of real human signals. And the longer that continues, the more normal the emptiness starts to feel. Phase 3. The parasocial decay. There's another kind of loneliness that feels even stranger, because technically, you don't feel alone. You feel like you know people. You watch them every day. You hear their voice more than your own friends. You know their routines, their opinions, their relationships, their humor. Creators, streamers, celebrities, podcasters, people who exist in your life without ever actually being in it. Psychology calls this a parasocial relationship, a one-sided emotional bond. And the unsettling part is that your brain doesn't fully know the difference. It responds as if connection is happening. You laugh with them. You feel comforted by them. You miss them when they disappear. Your nervous system interprets familiarity as intimacy, so it releases the same chemicals associated with closeness, comfort, attachment, emotional recognition. But there's a problem. Nothing comes back. They don't know your name. They don't notice your silence. They don't ask if you're okay. It is connection without reciprocity. A relationship where emotional energy leaves you, but nothing returns. And over time, that creates depletion. Because intimacy is supposed to be mutual. Human connection is meant to regulate both people. But parasocial bonds only simulate one side of that equation. You feel seen without actually being seen. You feel close without being known. And slowly, something dangerous happens. You begin replacing human intimacy with information consumption, watching instead of participating, observing instead of connecting. It feels easier, safer. There's no rejection, no vulnerability, no risk. But there's also no real nourishment, just emotional output into a void. This is parasocial decay. Not because these connections are fake, but because they train the brain to accept emotional substitutes. And eventually, real relationships start to feel harder than isolation. Phase 4. The rotting. Eventually, the digital stops feeling mental and starts becoming physical. You notice it in strange ways. You read the same sentence 3 times. You walk into a room and forget why. Conversations feel distant, like you're listening from somewhere behind yourself. Your thoughts feel slower. Your attention feels weaker. Your emotions feel strangely muted. This is what people casually call brain fog, but it's more than forgetfulness. It's a kind of internal static, a sensation that your mind is present, but not fully connected. And then there's something even stranger: dissociation. That unsettling feeling of being an outside observer of your own life. Like you're watching yourself speak instead of actually speaking. Like your days are happening to you, not with you. Nothing feels fully real. Nothing feels fully yours. People often think this means something is wrong with them, but sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you. Because when the mind loses real anchors like physical presence, routine, touch, eye contact, and genuine connection, it starts detaching. It pulls back. If reality feels artificial, unstable, and emotionally empty, the brain creates distance to survive it. Not as weakness, as defense. That hollow feeling you have? That is your brain trying to disconnect from a world that only exists in pixels. A world of constant stimulation, but very little grounding. And the longer you stay there, the more disconnection starts to feel normal. You stop asking why you feel absent and just learn how to function inside it. And that may be the most dangerous part. Not the decay itself, but how quietly it convinces you that this is simply what life feels like now. Phase 5. The way out. Most advice for this sounds painfully simple. Go outside, touch grass, spend less time on your phone. And because it sounds simple, most people ignore it. But the solution isn't small, it's radical. Because the problem isn't screen time, it's dependence. Your nervous system has adapted to artificial stimulation, constant input, constant noise, constant low-level distraction. Silence feels uncomfortable now. Stillness feels threatening. Being alone without a screen can feel almost unbearable. That's not lack of discipline, that's conditioning. Which means the way out has to be intentional, not casual. You need what could be called radical de-digitalization. Not forever, not as some dramatic life reset. Even 1 hour a day is enough to start. 1 hour with no algorithm deciding what enters your mind. No scrolling, no background noise, no digital sedation. Just friction. Real life. A walk without headphones. A conversation without checking your phone. A meal without stimulation.
sitting in silence long enough for your own thoughts to become audible again. At first, it feels wrong, boring, restless, almost empty, because it means your brain is withdrawing from artificial connection and remembering what real presence feels like. The internet was never built to make you happy. It was built to keep you there, to hold attention, to make disconnection feel impossible. But reclaiming your mind starts with one simple act: remembering what it feels like to be disconnected, not from people, from noise, from performance, from the constant illusion of being connected. Because peace does not begin when the world gets quieter. It begins when you stop feeding your mind things that were never meant to nourish it. And sometimes, the first step back to yourself is logging off. If any of this felt familiar, the brain fog, the hollow feeling, the strange sense of being constantly connected but never truly close, then you're not imagining it. Digital isolation doesn't arrive as loneliness. It arrives as numbness, as distraction, as the slow feeling that your mind is somewhere else. So ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly alone without reaching for a screen? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more psychological breakdowns like this, subscribe to Uncanny Psychology. Stay analytical.